Hi, this is Dina with Left Lane Finds, and I was going to go for a walk, but I don't know if you can see in the background there. It started to rain. I got all ready to go outside, and I'm like, no! I thought maybe I can still do it. I don't know. I'm waiting to see if it stops raining in a couple minutes here, and if it does, then I'll go for a walk and we can talk about all of those live shows on Poshmark. I've been attending a lot of them and experimenting with it, and I want to tell you guys all about it. Okay, I decided to just be on my porch swing, and let's get into talking about Poshmark and that new feature that they rolled out a few months ago, the live shows. So initially the live shows were by invite only, and they're kind of still like that. I think you have to be a Posh Ambassador level 2 to actually get the buttons in order to become a host for the live show. Of course, that is all subject to change. But what I've been doing is popping in and out of these live shows different times of the day, sometimes in the morning, sometimes at night, because I want to see how are they doing it. How is everybody's style? What are they doing in terms of selling their items? Are they selling their items? And I love doing a lot of research, and I thought, well, since I'm doing all the research, let's talk about it so you guys can learn too. So if you sell on Poshmark, or if you like to buy on Poshmark, now this is very interesting for the buyers on Poshmark. So everybody knows that you can go into a Posh closet, or if you look at an item, you can always make an offer on that item lower than whatever the listed price is. And that has always been a thing with Poshmark. And so the live shows are completely different. It's an auction style. And so what the person does is, let's say that item, they have it in their closet for like $65. And they're like, well, I'm going to put it in this live show, but I'm going to start the bidding at like $25. And if it sells for 25, it sells for 25. And if it gets bid up, it gets bid up. That is always the chance with these. Now, the one thing I've noticed in my research is these shows are not heavily attended, and people are popping in and out of them. It might be people like me who stay for a couple of minutes, see what's going on, you know, kind of get the feel for that particular show, and then I jump to the next show and I do the same thing. And there is an interesting, it's just an interesting environment, let's put it that way. And I think it's a really good environment for a Posh to have, you know, the buy it nows, where you can just buy it as is, or you can make an offer on an item in a person's closet, or maybe put a bundle together and buy things that way. But this live show is, you get to ask questions more about it. You get to see it up close. They can show you the item, you know, top to bottom. But there's another little feature that they just added, and it makes it even more interesting. So I went on Poshmark the other day, and at the top they always have like a little news thing at the top of the screen, and I clicked on it to see what it was about, because it was like, oh, the host of these live shows can now sell your items out of your closet. I'm like, oh, what is that? That's really interesting. So of course I clicked on it. I immediately then went to find a show where the host was saying that they were selling their items, but they were also selling other people's items out of their closet. In fact, some of these hosts, and you know, it's just nice that they do this. People do not have to do this. Some of the hosts weren't selling any of their own items. They were only featuring items out of other people's closets, like 4, 5, 6 different other, you know, people. And the way it works is you go into your closet now, and you pick the items that you want to go into the show. And well, let me back up. There's lots of ways to do this, and each host has their own way and their own rules of doing it. So the feature that Poshmark showed me the other day was, you would go into the show where they're doing both selling their stuff and other people's stuff, and you click on the little icon that they call the tray. And when you click on the tray, you can see all of the items that are being sold in that show. And from there, there's another button that you click on. It takes you to your closet, and then you pick your items to go into that show. And so that's what I did. I picked like 3 items because I'm like, oh, let me just see how this works. And then when my items came up, because my first thought was, how do I put up my auction price? You know, it's listed for the full price. So let's say it was something that was listed for 20 bucks and I wanted the auction to start at 10. Well, sure enough, when the host puts your item up, it sends you a message saying for you to put in the price that you wanted to start the auction. So that's what I did on each one of my items. Now, the only way this works is if you attend the show, completely attend the show fully. You have to be there. In fact, sometimes the host will call out your name, and if you don't say that you're there, they will skip your items and go to another person that is in the show. So of course, I was like, well, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to stick around. I don't care how long it takes. I don't know when my items are going to get called. And I'm learning along the way. I'm learning, like, what are the other, people doing in terms of selling their item? Are they selling? And all of that. In the meantime, while you're watching the items come up, and most of the auctions are 30 seconds, but you can set it as either 30 seconds, 45 seconds, or 60 seconds. Now, the host will get mad at you if you pick the longer times, because there's so many items to go through. It would take forever to go through everybody's items. So always pick the 30-second, clock for your auction item. But anyways, that was just something I learned along the way, sharing that as a tip. Make sure your, items are for the short amount of time. It also creates that urgency that if people do want to bid on it, or if there's multiple bidders, they only have a few seconds in which to bid on it. Now, of course, the person, even if, let's say, nobody bid on it, they can always go to your closet and find it, especially if it's something that they want. They're going to know what the name of it is. They're going to know a lot of information. Now, there is no reviewing a live show. Once it's done, all of that is gone. So if you're in a live show and it's something that you like, you have to have a pen and pencil, a pen and paper or pencil and paper ready to write down information if there's really something you wanted to get, but you didn't want to bid on it. You just want to, buy it later out of that person's closet. And you can search by name, or you can search by the seller's name. I don't know if that's even possible. I should look that up. Can you look on Poshmark by the seller's name? And what's funny is I'm always using my phone, and I know that the laptop, if you use a laptop or tablet or whatever, there's a lot more features with Poshmark that you can't do on your phone. So it's probably possible. That I don't know. Comment down below if you know you can look somebody up by their seller name. That's not as common, I think, in Poshmark as it is on like eBay and things like that, because people are always following you, and it's really hard to create a list of your favorites on Poshmark. Not impossible, but it's hard to do. But anyways, back to these auctions. So the person will call your name, and if you're there, they'll put your items up on, to be auctioned off. And then they just keep doing that for the next person. However, there was another live show that I was in that the person automated everything. That all they had to do was interact with the group. There's a group chat, so you can chat with the people that are in the group, and sometimes they play games. They create polls, and it doesn't have to be related to reselling or any of the items. Sometimes it's like, what's your favorite candy? And it's just to get interaction from the group. And people comment on the items that come up, sometimes like, oh, that's really cute, or I love the color, that kind of thing. There's lots of interactions that way. And that's to, they always say to stimulate the algorithm, to make it look like it's a very interactive show. And I guess it does. People are going to pop in the show if they want to or not. So some of the shows are themed, and I thought that's really interesting too. There was one that was just doing luxury handbags. So if you're a luxury handbag seller and they're doing their items and your items, that is definitely where you want to go. And read the rules of the host. They usually have it pinned at the top. of, you know, how to do it. Some of them want you to put bundles together and send them the bundle. Don't ask me how they do that. I have not done that yet. And because each host is doing it different, I don't want to tell you how to do it, and then that's not the way to do it. Even when I told you earlier how I added my items, that was only for that one show that I did. Then I went to another show that was themed. It was colors. She wanted yellows, orange, browns, and cream colored items. It didn't matter if it was shorts, tops, handbags, you know, any belts, anything like that. So people were putting in all kinds of things to the theme of the colors. And what she was doing was you were to push those items to the top of your closet. So your top 3 or 4 items. And then she was going in and picking which ones out of the ones that you put up there to put into the show. So she was adding them to the tray, as they call it. And so there's all this new terminology too. So that's another reason why I'm doing this video. So you'll learn like some of the terminology that they're using. And people were asking the host, like, oh, are you using the new feature? And she's like, no. So some hosts want to have a lot of control. Some don't want to have any control. They just set up, they just like allow for, you know, people to come in and put their items into the show. And then it's up to that person to actually start the auction. I saw items where the person put it into a show, then they must have walked away, their items came up for auction, and there was no auction, there was no price put up because the person wasn't there. So those items get featured, so it's a featured item, but nobody was allowed to buy it. And I thought that was interesting too. So there was a lot going on. In fact, in the chats, there was a lot of, hey, I got to let my dog out. Hey, I got to go, you know, put my baby to bed, you know, that kind of thing. And they would come back and be like, oh, did you call my name? And if the host said yes or no, you know, they would tell the host, hey, I'm back. Can you run my items now? And, you know, I can do my items now. You know, I'm back in the show. So there was a lot of that going on. And people are very, very accommodating, which is great. They're building a community. In fact, the host, some of them, they do these shows for hours and hours and hours. They do it in the evening. They get up in the morning, they start doing them again. The one host did like a fashion show of things that she bought for herself from other poshers. She was buying them either out of their closets or out of other live shows. And then she did like a fashion show while the other items from all of us resellers that were, you know, in the tray, as those items were coming up and being bid on, she was doing like a fashion show. And the other thing I noticed, which is nice for when there's no talking, is people were playing music. Now, sometimes the music is a little too loud or it's distracting and you can't hear what the host says. There was one host who thought she was off camera the whole time, and it was just showing a blank wall. And I was thinking, wow, you should be able to put up a background. Like that should be a feature of the live shows. Like if you don't want to be shown on it and you don't want to, you know, and so anyways, you should be able to put a background up just like you can on a lot of other live, you know, shows and live things. You should be able to put up just a single picture, and that's what's shown, because the auction items are at the bottom of the screen when you're on your cell phone. I have not watched a live show on my laptop, so I'm going to do that. That's my next thing I want to do, and see how that looks and how different that is. But anyways, this particular host was showing a blank wall, and she thought she was out of frame, and the whole time she was going like this. She was like playing with her hair, but all you could see was the bottom of her arm off on the side of the thing. And I was like, oh God. And nobody was telling her. I'm like, well, I'm not going to tell her. I don't want my name in the chat telling her that you could see her and that she just had her arm. She was just like playing with her hair. And I thought that was really, really odd. And so, you know, if you're going to be a host on Poshmark, I guess, you know, always be aware of where's your camera pointing, you know, maybe have a laptop running so you can see what you look like if you're running it, you know, off your cell phone. Now, obviously, you can use a tablet or a laptop to run the show and then be doing everything else on a separate thing. That's the other thing. You have to have two devices to do these live shows. But I'm kind of excited about it. I think it's interesting. A lot of people do live shows on YouTube. They do them on Whatnot. Of course, that's a live auction thing, Whatnot, which is very, very popular. And so we'll see how long this feature stays with Poshmark. We'll see if they, you know, make it better, add more features to it. There's a lot of features. A lot of the hosts talk about that, and hopefully they're like, hey, you know, this doesn't work very well, or here's a problem or issues. They talk about it. People talk about it in the chat. So hopefully Poshmark is taking all of that and, you know, looking to see if there's anything they can improve upon. So my suggestion is to go to Poshmark, go to the live shows. For one, to be a buyer, you can get some deals. And two, oh, the rain is really coming down now. Oh, it looks like sleet. That's why I have a coat on. It's actually cold out today. Yeah, that is definitely some sort of sleet. And two, go to the live shows as a reseller and learn and study and interact and figure out how to do things, because you might be able to sell some of your items. As always, please like, comment, and subscribe. I love reading your comments, and I will catch you guys later.